സിംഗപ്പൂർ ചോയ്സ് സമർപ്പിക്കുന്നത് ഹൗസ് ബ്രാൻഡ് തനതായ സ്വാദിന്റെ സംതൃപ്തി. പവേഡ് ബൈ ഓൾ ഇന്ത്യ സൂപ്പർ മാർട്ട് സിംഗപ്പൂർ, ഹോൾസെയിൽ പ്രൈസ് അറ്റ് റീറ്റെയിൽ മാർട്ട്. കോ സ്പോൺസേഡ് ബൈ തിരുമലാഗി, ദ ട്രസ്റ്റഡ് ടേസ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് കൗഗി.
ഹായ്, ഗുഡ് മോർണിംഗ്. സിംഗപ്പൂർ ചോയ്സിന്റെ വർണ്ണാഭമായ ഒരു പുതുപുത്തൻ എപ്പിസോഡിലേക്ക് ഏവർക്കും സ്വാഗതം. തഞ്ചം നിൻപദം ദയാളയിനി അഞ്ചേൽ என்றாதரவோடருள்வாய். തഞ്ചം നിൻപദം ദയാളയിനി அஞ்சேல் என்றாதரவோடருள்வாய். கொஞ்சும் வள்ளி குஞ்சரி கணவா, கொஞ்சும் வள்ளி குஞ்சரி கணவா, செஞ்சேவலர் சுரகாவலர் வேலா. கொஞ்சும் வள்ளி குஞ்சரி கணவா, செஞ்சேவலர் സുരകാവലർ വേല. Singapore Choice-il ഇന്നത്തെ നമ്മുടെ ഗസ്റ്റ് Durga Manimaran. Durga Manimaran has been dancing professionally in Singapore for the last 17 years. She's a teacher and the founder of a production company called Trupataka. Let's welcome her. Namaste, Akka. Welcome to Singapore Choice. Akka, you've been dancing professionally for 17 years. How did you get into dance and what made you choose dance?
At 4, I started going for classes. My parents put me in Apsara's Arts. I started off with the Kesavan sisters, of course, for many years, till I did my debut at about 17. I did my Arangetram. After that, I went on to the advanced classes with Srimati Neela Satyalingam, who was running Apsara's Arts. And then with her, I started doing a lot of dance. You know, during that time when I was studying and everything, I started following her and patronizing a lot of performances, and also we ourselves did a lot of programs, and then we started doing a little bit of choreography and this and that, and our involvement in dance was quite a lot during that time. And so then I think with all that in place, I decided to pursue dance, academic sort of thing. So I went away to Australia to pursue dance. Before that, concurrently, I was going to India every year. The end of the year holidays, about 1.5 2 months I would stay there. So I'd go to Chennai to learn with Srimati Krishnavani Lakshmanan, the then principal of Kalakshetra, and also go to Calcutta, where they taught this art form called Navanritya, and in Dancers Guild I used to train under them as well. So this went on for like maybe about 2 or 3 years. I used to keep going up and down. After that, I decided to study dance further, and so my parents sent me to Australia, and I pursued a contemporary arts degree with a dance major. So, I mean, from then on, I've been, ever since I came back, I've been teaching. I've been a teaching artist for quite some time now. So, yeah, that's really how, you know, it all began. Because my involvement was so much that I decided I would study it so that I could, you know, delve into it further, you know, in all the proper channels.
Navanritya, you had mentioned. What kind of dance form is it? Is it some sort of a contemporary art form?
Yeah, quite beautiful actually. They've taken all the classical and folk art forms of dance forms of India, processed it in a way and made their own dance vocabulary. You know, so you have the Kalaripayat, you have the Mayurbhanj Chow, you have all these martial art forms as well. Then you have Odissi, Kathakali, Bharatanatyam, you know, Manipuri, you know, very interesting forms they've put together, and the process of how they have made movements of their own was very interesting. They have their own syllabus. So when I went there, I actually managed to learn almost everything, you know, year after year. And it used to be like a crash course, but I used to try to imbue everything we can, and then we video it, and then, you know, we write down notes and all that. But that was really very inspiring for me going to them, because it kind of opened up a different horizon altogether for dance. Because when you learn in a very strict traditional format, like how we do, you tend to be very stereotyped in the way you think as well. Yep. You know, so Navanritya was the first dance vocabulary that opened up a lot of avenues for me to start thinking like an artist, you know, and not somebody who just wants to reproduce amalgam that has been taught to me. No, I didn't want to do that. So Navanitya was my first inspiration before I went to Australia.
Now, as a teacher, you work with students from schools. You teach schools that teach dance as co-curricular activities. You also teach students in these schools that have no background in terms of Indian dance or even Indian culture. How do you teach them dance like Bharatnatyam, which is so imbibed, you know, that is so full of Indian culture? How do you teach them something like that?
It's true, actually, most of the kids don't have any training. I mean, that's why we are sent there, to train them, you know. So we know that these children we assume they do not have any training from outside, and we start from scratch every time. So most times sometimes we have Malay children, the Chinese kids and all, because they join Indian dance because they find some value in it, which is really fantastic. I think not just with the Chinese or the Malay kids, but even with the local Indian children, you know, their cultural backgrounds are very different from those of India. Children from India are born in a different background. Here the kids we're born in a multiracial background, and it's very different for us. You know, so what I do is, the current pedagogic pattern I'm working on is what I've been doing for the past 3 or 4 years under my company's banner. I am working on making dance, the traditional art forms, relevant to our children. Right? So if I need to teach something from the Abhinaya Darpanam, a theoretical element, I need to teach a Chinese or a Malay kid, I will concise it in a way that they can understand, and then use their experiences to teach them. You know, so in that way, they understand how to relate to it.
Yeah.
Right? It's only then that they're able to imbue it, internalize it, because we don't want, again, to create a clone. You know, we want the children to understand what they're doing. So this is basically my work. It's going to take a few years, but my work is to constantly keep changing the patterns. I mean, this underlying Kalakshetra syllabus are there when we teach classical dance, because that's what we know, and you know, all our theory books are based on that. We need to teach the theory, but the theory is actually, it's also relevant, but I feel like it wasn't passed down to us in that way. So now it is our duty to pass it down to the kids in a way that they can experientially learn it.
Right, so it's just the approach that
the
is
approach
changing.
has to change. The teaching and the learning approaches all have to change, especially for the traditional arts. If you want to sustain it in a country like this, if you want to keep it alive, you will need to teach it in a way that the children want to learn it. If not, there will not be any more traditional arts. Like with Chinese dance, it is dying a lot in Singapore. You know, they need to get teachers and all from China. There are no local artists who want to teach Chinese dance anymore, very few. So it's really very sad, because it's such a beautiful art form. You know, so this is what we need to think about when we teach traditional arts. And we want the other races to come and learn it.
Yep.
Because you see, there's an entire value system to learning the traditional art forms, the Indian art forms. And all the kids should benefit from it.
ഹൗസ് ബ്രാൻഡ് കഴിഞ്ഞ 60 വർഷമായി സിംഗപ്പൂരിന്റെ തനത് രുചിക്കൂട്ടുകൾക്കും സ്വാദിനും ഒപ്പമാണ്. ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഓരോ ഉൽപ്പന്നങ്ങളുടെയും വാസനയും ഗുണമേന്മയും നഷ്ടപ്പെടാതിരിക്കാൻ ക്രയോജനിക് സാങ്കേതികവിദ്യ ഉപയോഗിച്ച് ഞങ്ങളുടെ തന്നെ ഫാക്ടറിയിൽ തയ്യാറാക്കി പാക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഹൗസ് ബ്രാൻഡ്, തനത് സ്വാദിന്റെ സംതൃപ്തി.
All India Supermart. Enjoy the sprawling one-stop shopping experience in 4 floors. The premier All India Supermart offers wide range and great varieties of consumer products. Groceries to fresh vegetables, chocolates, lifestyle products, fashion wear, pharmacy and beauty. All India Supermart's futuristic self-service kiosk is a highlight for groceries. All India Supermart, 41 Norris Road, Singapore.
തിരുമല നെയ് ശർക്കര പായസത്തിന് സ്ട്രോങ് സപ്പോർട്ട്, നെയ്ദോശയ്ക്ക് സൂപ്പർ സപ്പോർട്ട്, ഗുലാബ് ജാമിന് ക്ലോസ് ഫ്രണ്ട്, വീട്ടിലും വിരുന്നിലും ഏറ്റവും അടുത്ത സുഹൃത്ത് തിരുമല നെയ്.
തിരുമല നെയ്.
Our priceless possession, Ayurveda. At Ananta Ayurveda, relax and detoxify, unwind and rejuvenate your mind and body from an array of treatments and massage therapies. Get expert advice for specific ailments, spinal and muscular conditions. Ananta Ayurvedic Healthcare, Buffalo Road and Yishun Street, 71, Singapore. Call 63964494. Ananta Ayurveda. Reliving a treasured past.
Hanifa, the popular name in every household, comes with a great deal of heritage and trust since 1962. Hanifa's new self-service supermarket with a diverse collection of products. Everything you need and something to suit everyone. Hanifa, 118 Dunlop Street and 60 Serangoon Road, Singapore.
You're mentioning that you've changed certain ways of teaching in order to suit the present generation of children. What is an example of that?
From third year onwards, they start learning in the Margam, they start learning Shabdam. And in Shabdam, you introduce certain aspects of Abhinaya. Your Satvika Bhavas, you start introducing from very little, you start introducing that before they go into the Varnam. Certain elements that you do in a Shabdam, certain Kutti Sancharis, small Sancharis that you do are like, the churning of the milk, the churning of the buttermilk. And these are things that children don't know what it is. They don't even know what it is, you see. So rather than them asking us what it is and then we showing them pictures and then explaining to them the how the machine even works, wouldn't really make sense because it is not in their muscle memory, right? So they wouldn't understand how to do it naturally because they don't know what it is. So then for those things we change. We put a pot. And then maybe we do that. It's easier for us to show them a long wooden stick and then just turning it or swiveling it. That is something that they can understand easily and something that they can even do. We can bring a stick into class and make them do it. So it looks real. It doesn't look like it's all, something that they've just copying the teacher. They're not copying the teacher. They're doing it through experience. And that's what we want. Like so many sancharis we have milking the cow. Right? And then when teachers teach you sometimes, when big gurus teach you, they'll say, maadu paathade illaya? Illaya, our children here actually, have you not seen a cow? Some teachers will ask, but that's the truth. Some children who live in the cities here have not even seen a cow. So you can't tell them milk, milk. You can't keep saying that because the child doesn't understand it, you see. Unless you bring a cow into the class and say, now milk the cow. Because all the while that's happening, anything with Krishna and Gopi, you're milking the cow, and we are just copying and copying and copying for generations. Nobody has told you this is how you actually will milk a cow. Let's go to the zoo and look at the cow now. So this is, I find that the system has a lot of loopholes because to just teach a piece that has been taught to you by a guru or just changing some choreography and just teaching the child is not actually teaching, if you ask me, right? You want to impart a skill to that child so that later on they are able to create something for themselves because they understand what they're learning. So similarly, when they hand it down to the next generation, they will understand what they're teaching. They will know that, okay, the next generation is not going to understand what is a ma kolam. Even a ma kolam, when I did my first production, I was 19 or 20. I never put a kolam in my life. So when I looked at my video, I cringed because it was horrible. I was drawing some alphabets on the floor. But that's not how you put a ma kolam. Apparently, you put dots first. You take the mavi, you put dots first. So then when we teach them how to do the ma kolam, maybe we can have an entire kolam activity in the class. So they really do it. So when they sit and do it for the sanchari, it looks really real. It looks real. They're that's the beauty of dance, It shouldn't be so far away from reality. It should be just part of life.
Now, you have been involved in many productions over the years. What are some of the challenges you have faced in some of these productions?
Of course, as when I was a student with Neela Mami, it was very fun. Productions was the fun time because we all worked like a family, and then you just had to take instructions and take cues and just do your part, and it was a lot more easier for sure. But when I started practicing on my own, until date I've done 10 productions on my own. Every year a new challenge will come up. Of course, funding the biggest thing, but I have to be grateful that we do get a lot of government funding, and it's only because of that I can produce any work for that matter. But again, because we use live music, so then we have musicians, the logistics, and sometimes my vocalist comes from India, and then the logistics of all that, and practice. And then when you have students performing in the production, getting them to come for rehearsals is just the biggest task in the world. So, that kind of thing really are challenges. But the entire logistics of running a production in itself, I think in any part of the world, a task. And again, when you are a one-man show, you are the producer, you are the creative director, you have to think about how you want to place the music, and then you come up with the entire concept paper, and then you have to explain it to the other dancers, And when you are the one-man show, then you need to sell the tickets. You know, you need to make sure that you can at least break even, you know, so you need to sell the tickets. And to be very honest, we don't have a lot of support. The local artists do not have a lot of support because if it's very different. When somebody's coming from India to Esplanade, it will be full house, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's also getting bad now, I don't know. I think when an international artist comes, there is definitely more support for them, you know, and so even to sell a $25 ticket after 15 years of practicing, you know, 15 years of exploring the art, and you know, now we raise the ticket sales to the ticket price to $25. I think people still think, sometimes, you know. But I must say that in the past 10, 20 years, it has improved. It has definitely improved. The support for the local arts has improved, and people are willing to buy tickets now. And you know, with all this art being introduced in schools and everything, everyone understands that locals are getting involved in arts. Many children are going to LaSalle and NAFA and SOTA and all that and learning the arts. So I think in that way it has become better. But productions will always pose a challenge.
Akka, your productions that your production company comes up with every year, you have a lot of contemporary elements that you incorporate into them. How do you teach them to your students?
Most of our showcases are based on traditional work. The underlying foundation of it is usually Bharatanatyam. But sometimes we require different sort of technique to suit a context. You know, when there's something that needs to get across to the audience in a very quick manner, then you know, sometimes we may need to use different technique, not only Bharatanatyam. So in that way, I do juxtapose different sort of elements into the dance vocabulary. The students actually, throughout the year, we go through a couple of different workshops, you know, and not only just in preparation for production, but just for them to learn skill, you know. So they have their own. We have yoga workshops, and then we that are tailor-made to suit us and our problems, the dancing body. And then we have I train them in a bit of modern dance, and then also give them some of these Indian contemporary movements like martial arts and all these sort of things. We kind of imbue that into the body conditioning practices in our stretching, in our warming up and all that. So all that is part of the warming up. So they already learn it, you see, because that is needed for conditioning of the body. So while they learn all these things, when anything comes up along the way, if they need to use a movement, they already know it. You see, so fundamentally, the skill needs to be taught to the student, you know, because our program is so different. We want them to learn things that are contrasting to Bharatanatyam, because then they're able to understand how their body works, right? I'm not saying that the pattern for learning Bharatanatyam is not enough, but I think that, you know, if we can add on more to the vocabulary, why not? Because then the body just really, really internalizes a lot of technique, and then it can do anything after a while. And that sort of person can then go on to becoming an artist, not just a dancer, not just a person who regurgitates what she has learned, but that kind of body can go on to creating work of their own, because they have imbued so many different techniques and concepts and ideas and all that, which is why I like to make it a little bit, maybe the word is innovative. I don't like to say contemporary as well, because in a way Bharatanatyam has already been so contemporarized, you know. So I mean, I think now we are very post-contemporary. Our era is already post-contemporary. I think we go back to using original music, original scores. We still use Dikshidhar's pieces, we still use Purandradas, we still use all the great scores for dance, you know. I mean, Papanasam Shivam's works, you know, are so rampant with dancers, and so we still use all that old things, but I think we just want to seek innovation within tradition. You know, I think that is the beauty about living in a country like that. You want other races to come and watch you, you know, you want people to help sustain the arts and all that. Then we would need to keep innovating, but not deviating from the tradition. You know, keeping the traditional skeleton, but then, you know, maybe you using a different perspective to show your audiences, or using a different perspective like what I'm doing now to teach. You know, just using a different perspective and a different way of doing it, that's all. Just changing some patterns, but I'm not deviating from the tradition.
ഹൗസ് ബ്രാൻഡ് കഴിഞ്ഞ 60 വർഷമായി സിംഗപ്പൂരിന്റെ തനത് രുചിക്കൂട്ടുകൾക്കും സ്വാദിനും ഒപ്പമാണ്. ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഓരോ ഉൽപ്പന്നങ്ങളുടെയും വാസനയും ഗുണമേന്മയും നഷ്ടപ്പെടാതിരിക്കാൻ ക്രയോജനിക് സാങ്കേതികവിദ്യ ഉപയോഗിച്ച് ഞങ്ങളുടെ തന്നെ ഫാക്ടറിയിൽ തയ്യാറാക്കി പാക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഹൗസ് ബ്രാൻഡ്, തനത് സ്വാദിന്റെ സംതൃപ്തി.
QBB Pure Ghee for cooking, baking, and barbecue. Superior taste in so many ways. QBB Pure Ghee.
You conduct many workshops in Singapore as well as in China. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sometimes we have exchange programs in Singapore, so we have children coming, students, older students actually, tertiary students coming from Japan, Switzerland, like that, you know, certain parts of Europe and all that. They don't speak English, most of them, but they do this, they come for exchange programs, and then what we do is, as part of the core curricular activity, either do Malay, Chinese or Indian dance, but I have done many Indian dance workshops for these kids, the Japanese students and all that. It's always a pleasant experience because it is an intercultural exchange, you know, and somehow students from a different culture tend to learn very quickly. I think I've noticed that over the years, that they learn very quickly. I think because there is a focus when they're here. When they're trying to learn something new, they're very focused, right? So they pick it up very quickly. And with the structure of Bharatanatyam, Adavu structure is very structured. It's so systemized. It's very easy to teach, you know. That is the beauty about the system. So we can teach it very easily in terms of technique, not very difficult, because they don't stay long enough to learn theory and all that, you know. So we teach them very basic things like hastas, maybe 1 or 2 vinyogas, how to use the hastas, like the application of hastas, you know. So, and then they learn maybe a couple of adavus, and then there's a sharing session, and then they watch you dance, and then maybe they're part of it. A simple talam maybe they will learn, you know, all very basic things.
So are these children who come, are they already trained in some sort of dance?
Some of them are dancers, some are actors, you know, they are in different performing arts activities in their schools, in their tertiary institutions.
Right.
Some of them, I think, also don't have any knowledge of anything. But they're very open, you see, you know, they come with this open mind, which is why they learn so quickly every time. With my trips to China, I mean, I cannot say anything, I have no negative response to any of it, because it has been quite amazing, really. My last year when I went to a different state, I was training about 25 teachers. It was a teachers training program. It was very intense. It was like 50 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. They all run their own dance studios in different parts of China, and they all came together for this workshop. Most people in China are exposed to only Bollywood. Anything Indian they understand is only Bollywood. They don't know anything else. For them, and so what happened was, because they understood Bollywood, they started doing Kathak workshops, because that was closely related to Bollywood dancing for them, right? So it became easier to introduce Bharatanatyam to them only because they knew what Kathak was, right? Otherwise, because they have no resources there, they don't get YouTube and all that, you know, so they cannot watch anything, you see. So, but that again is the beauty of this, right? Because you're going and introducing something completely new to them, they have no concept. So they're very accepting. You see, they accept it very wholeheartedly, and they do not take breaks. You know, like you can squeeze your dance hari after the end of each day, because that's how much we have to dance with them. And they do not take any breaks. They are very resilient people, you know, they're culturally very, very different. Going from Singapore to China and teaching them, it is very different. And of course, I have a translator throughout the 9 hours. Somebody communicating in between the 3 of us, like that, you know, and it's actually really tiring, but really enriching, and of course, very satisfying.
Akka, how long have you been running Tripitaka for?
It's only been 2 years now, actually.
Okay.
Before this, I've been working for other institutions, and I was happily doing it, actually, because I didn't want the logistics of running a company ever. It was too many overheads. You know, I never wanted to, but I think there were a lot of signs. You know, the parents were telling me, you know, why don't you go on your own? And then the senior girls who came to me, they said, you know, let's start something up, you know. And I had a lot of support that way, and I thought, okay. And we managed to find a studio that was affordable, and, you know, whatever facilities I needed, the proper mirrors and everything. So that was good, and we're still working with those people, that studio. They're really very kind to us. They're very nice. Of course, the company started out because one of my senior students had to do Arangetram. And so because of that, I had to give her a certification, right? So really, it was because of the Arangetram we started out Tripitaka, and then continued doing lots of integrated programs, which is fantastic actually. That now we come under this banner, and then there are more people coming in to join us. We have company dancers, people who perform in productions, and we also run the training program concurrently.
Right.
We're not really like a school. We do everything actually. So we're also doing workshops, and we're planning on sending, like every year, maybe if we can send 2 students for outreach overseas to learn something like that. We want to go on a bigger scale in terms of learning, approaching the arts, you see, and not just dance. Like we want them to do other things, like we want them to understand visual arts, acting, music, and all these other things that are part of being an artist.
How many students do you have at Tripataka at the moment?
See, we only have 20 people there, not many. Because, let me tell you why, that's the amount of focus you require in a class. I only have 2 or 3 in a class, and I think you really need that. You can't have so many kids in a class and just let the whole herd learn one Tillana, the whole herd learn one Jadiswaram. You can't do that. They're not learning actually.
Yeah.
They're not. And then when they go back, the parents are yelling, practice, nothing happens there. So our approach is really very different. I get the kids to be independent, and I do not trouble the parents. That is my new thing, because I'm also a parent.
Yep.
And so I understand how this works, and I tell the children, these are the things you need to do. I give them tasks every week, and then I promise them something, So the thing is, it has worked for a bit, and because I don't have such a big group of students, maybe I'm not so stressed out in that manner.
Yep.
And then we have, because we have different age groups is one thing, I also have a few old people in a class who love dance so much, but don't intend on being artists or performers or anything for that matter. They just want to come in and learn something every time. And they've been with me for many years as well. I encourage them because they're so passionate about it.
Yeah.
They're not technically the best of dancers, but they're learning properly. And every year we do a small showcase during Navaratri. All the students from the Kuttis, they perform. And most of the time with live music. We start training them from young, to listen to the mridangam, take your cues, when the ardi is coming, do you know when to come in,
Yep.
Listen to the talam, all these things we start training them from young. So this yearly program, the parents are very supportive. They will all contribute some money, we will pay the musicians, like that. For now, that's what's happening, and we are planning on actually expanding. I plan to do open house in January, because I want to audition a few people to join the company as dancers, but they would also have to undergo the training program that I offer, because you not only do Bharatanatyam,
Yes.
right? So there will be other elements that you will need to imbue into your body. We would see who's interested. I mean, I'm not a very big company, so I don't know if people would be interested, but we are planning to expand. We hope that, so that we can reach out to more people.
Thank you very much, Akka, for spending time and imparting so much knowledge. I'm sure the audience is really going to take back a lot from what you have said. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you to AsiaNet. Thanks to you, Aditi.
ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ എപ്പിസോഡ് എല്ലാവർക്കും ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു എന്ന് കരുതുന്നു. അടുത്ത ആഴ്ച നമുക്ക് വീണ്ടും കാണാം.
സിംഗപ്പൂർ ചോയ്സ് സമർപ്പിച്ചത് ഹൗസ് ബ്രാൻഡ് തനതായ സ്വാദിന്റെ സംതൃപ്തി. പവേഡ് ബൈ ഓൾ ഇന്ത്യ സൂപ്പർ മാർട്ട് സിംഗപ്പൂർ, ഹോൾസെയിൽ പ്രൈസ് അറ്റ് റീറ്റെയിൽ മാർട്ട്. Co-sponsored by Tirumala Ghee, the trusted taste of cow ghee.